was attempting to hold a TV and play video games at the same time. Oh, Drew has his mustache back. I saw it this time. No, I did not go and unmount my TV for this. This is a broken extra TV that I have, and I saw it lying around. I was like, I can use that.
Did you steal that TV, Carter?
No. I definitely have not been practicing my lockpicking over the past month and telling everybody about it.
Coincidence, you just mastered lockpicking, and then you have a random TV.
I did celebrate publicly in the Slack channel and like the random channel. There's been a lock I've been working on for 6 weeks now. And I was on a call with Carlos. We should have Carlos on the stream. And he said something profound, and then I picked it. And then since then, I've been able to open it. So shout out to Carlos. Thank you for helping me open my lock. After like a month and a half, I didn't think I was going to do it. I just thought it was a pointless fidget spinner. Anyways.
It's a really cool fidget spinner.
It is a cool fidget spinner. Thank you. It is weird, though, when people come in, they're like, I thought you were an engineer. Do you get paid to pick locks? Because my desk is just like covered in it. I want to do like a make it rain thing with like all my tools. Okay, let's go on topic now. I just made a mess and I hate messes. Before we dig into anything, Drew had a brilliant idea to rate the jankiness of the games we play. There's been some bangers out there that we've touched. Things such as like Chicken Horse wasn't quite janky. That was like a solid indie game.
It was well made for sure.
Like Joust, like MMO Joust was like fairly janky because you could switch teams right before you attack somebody. Tetrio, I'd say low jankiness. Like that one was good.
Yeah, pretty solid game.
Which other ones? 3-player chess.
3-player chess is janky for sure. I mean, it works though.
Janky, but like predictable. Like janky, but poorly styled.
Yeah.
Trying to think of some of the other ones we've had. Shoot.
Well,
Tetrio or reverse Tetris last week. That was.
I mean, I don't know. So maybe we need multiple janky metrics because like some of the games work well. They're just really weird.
Yeah.
Reverse Tetris worked.
That's true. Reverse Tetris did work, but also it was like using like Microsoft Word like clip art for like all the icons. So you can tell about stuff. Aesthetic is like jankiness is a combination of aesthetic, usability, and playability. I would say.
Okay, well, I'd give it like a 7.5 out of 10 jankiness.
Okay, Stug. I thought Stug was actually pretty good. Good aesthetic, good sound design.
I love that game.
Good replayability. They just dropped a new update on August 3rd, so go check it out. I'm definitely not playing it still when I have 10 minutes here today.
It's a fun game.
Yeah. Anyways, excited to intro the game for today, but we'll do that in a minute. Before we do that, Drew, do you want to intro our guest?
I do. We are having a really cool guy on the stream today. He's a digital nomad. He's driven across the country 3 times, visited 46 states, but not Kansas, which I'm mildly insulted by because I used to live in Kansas. He's one of our very own directors of engineering here at JupiterOne. Let's welcome Andy.
Andy Folia, welcome.
Andy. Just coming in.
Just got back from a ride. How's it going?
Oh, welcome, Andy.
Nice.
You look a little winded, actually.
Yeah, exhausted. How's it going?
It's going well. That's a cool intro. I feel like you can't be an engineer or engineering manager and like longboard. Those are like, this is cool and this is not cool. Just kidding. Engineering school. Engineering sex. Can I say that on the stream? We'll roll with it. I won't. Yeah. Andy, tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
The fact that you're a digital nomad and you don't like Kansas.
Yeah. My name is Andy Foley. I'm a director of engineering here at JupiterOne. So my primary focus is on the integration space, so data ingestion, for our platform and helping customers answer hard questions that they have. Before that, I spent some time as a software engineer at McGraw-Hill and then worked my way into an engineering management role from there. So at McGraw-Hill, I bounced around between many different areas. At one point, I was running different K-12 product development and engineering teams, other back-end services like identity and licensing, and kind of really worked my way up over there. I was there for about 7 years. I spent a lot of my time over there before coming to JupiterOne. And it's a little bit about me.
Nice. I think that's great. I have one thing I need to call out that is unrelated to that. Shifting gears, Convi gets the Inspector Gadget Award of the episode for catching Drew's change here. Drew's mustache is gone.
It is not gone. It is still here.
It's gone, or G1. meaning it's gone. I'm not going to call out the typo like a jerk. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't make more of a noise about that because I've seen it, but you all are 2.4 million followers. This is new for you. So if we need to have like a moment of silence for Drew's mustache, let's do that really quick. You know what? Moment of silence. And we're back. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Drew's mustache. Anyways, Andy, shifting off of Drew's lack of facial hair now, which would have been perfect because the title of today's episode is How Do You Ted Lasso an Engineering Team? For those of you that haven't seen Ted Lasso, go and watch it. It's a wholesome show. It's great. I love it. But he has a killer, Jason Sudeikis has a killer mustache, and now Drew does not have that killer mustache. So when I wrote the title of this, he did. I was going to make all sorts of jokes about it, but now I can't. So.
Right, are you done? Are you done, Carter?
No. Okay. Let me intro the game really quick, and then we'll get rolling with our topic here. So today's game is you all are invited to play. I'd say as always, but not all games we can have everyone join. This one we can. You got to get in before we start. This is a public lobby. So this is PvP Mario. Please click the link, join. We're going to start it here in about 2 minutes. Drew and Andy are in here. We had somebody in here a couple minutes ago with a very inappropriate name. This is a public lobby. If you don't see it there, click the little orange indicator on the top right, and you can change the server to US West. Yes, I know most of the people here are on US East, but that was just crawling with tons of people. So I can't handle the PR nightmare or the HR nightmare associated with having another inappropriately named player in here. So we'll give people a few minutes to join if they want to. But before we do that, Drew, do you want to kick us off with our first question?
Yeah. So, like you said, Andy, you were at McGraw-Hill for quite a while. And you made a few transitions from being in IC roles, so contributing directly to more of management-ish roles. And you're kind of all over the place, but made that career growth. And so I guess, yeah, maybe let's talk about that some. Like what specific roles did you kind of go through and grow through? And as far as those transitions too, from like IC to management.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I actually started off as an intern one summer and then started full-time after that. So I started off as a software engineer on a brand new team with just a couple of people, and then moved into the lead role pretty quickly at that team, like within a year. So working really closely with product management to come up with requirements, technical practices and so forth of the team, stuff like that. So I kind of had that role for about a year of being the technical lead of that team, growing that team, hiring, bringing people in. And then from there, I started expanding into managing more teams. So then I became a manager of engineering from there, managed about 2 to 3 teams of 5 to 6 people each. And then from there, it just kind of started exploding. And I started managing a bunch of different people from there to the point where it was somewhere between 8 to 10 agile teams and filling different roles that were needed along the way. So yeah, so moving from individual contributor to manager, it happened quickly, but I definitely really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that is really quick. That's quicker than
I
like
7 people in here now. I'm going to kick the game off, by the way.
Okay.
HR Nightmares, shout out to whoever made that. That's some funny stuff. If you don't work here, talk to me and I will happily hire you. I don't care what your skill set is or isn't. Anyways, sorry. Continue. Also, actually, let me explain the game really quick. The game, oh, good heavens, that's a lot of Marios. So there's a star around here somewhere, and first person to get 10 stars, good heavens, this is going to take forever, wins, and you jump on each other to get each other stars. Oh, look, I found one. Get that done. Press E to shoot fireballs and jump on turtles and stuff. And good dodge, Drew. That is it. So, Andy, we've talked a lot about shifting back on topic now. We've talked a lot about transitioning from like an IC role into more of a leadership and management role on the show, but we haven't talked about kind of the transition between different management roles themselves. Mm-hmm. This is just a shit show. I'm getting stepped on so much. What's kind of, so like you went from like a team lead to a manager. When I got promoted to being a manager from being a team lead, I was kind of like, okay, Phil, like what changed? Like what's different now? The answer, like some things did change. What was your experience like in that? And like what changed for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the biggest change that I noticed was that there was a bit more two-way flow of expectations, where as a manager, I could kind of talk to my boss and be like, hey, this is what I think is realistic for the group to achieve, work with product management to achieve that. Team lead, sometimes I feel like, you have a team, you have to execute against the goal. You can make improvements along the way, but with management, you can kind of say, hey, in order to do that, we really need this to get this done. That was one big thing that I noticed. Obviously, increased responsibility, managing more people. And you definitely have to take a really strong vested interest in people's careers that are on your team, and making sure that the talk, as much as it is about execution and working through different projects the team's got, it's also about growing people and making sure that you make time for that, other than the like, hey, how can I help you with this code or this pull request today? It really shifts more into the soft skills as well. Those are a few big things that I noticed.
I like that. Would you feel? I feel like as a team leader, you're actually empowered to do some of like the career coaching.
Yeah.
As well. How would that differ as a manager? Because it is different as a manager, right? But why is that? Or like, what would that look like?
Yeah, I think as you move up and you move into manager role and then go on from there, you kind of start to see the bigger lay of the land in terms of all the different priorities that the organization is seeking to achieve. So you can be more tuned in to what's going on there, and then apply what people's interests might be to the longer term organizational goals, and set like kind of that, find the intersection of where that meets. Because if you're a team lead working on one priority, one team or one project, it may not be as pervasive as a wider manager may have, per se, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So kind of increases what you're governing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd say as a manager, as a team lead, like there's several things that you can't do as a team lead typically, right? Like you typically aren't responsible, at least in like the JupiterOne model, but a lot of places, you're typically not responsible for hiring and firing decisions. You usually don't explicitly handle like compensation changes and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then also like title changes. I'd certainly say like if you're not involved with those decisions, then like talk to your manager, because that's that you should be. But like I say that I think like as a manager, you're uniquely empowered to actually like make change for people. Like you can move people on teams when you ask them, what can I do for you? You can actually do stuff. Whereas like a team lead, it's more of like, what data can I pass on to somebody who can do something for you? I mean, you can change things on the team to a degree, right? But bigger systemic changes.
Yeah, I agree. And definitely like establishing a culture and doing that. You can do that as team lead as well, but manager, you can really bring in some larger. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
At least that's
what
I
have a question. I have a question, kind of, because I mean, you really did make that transition quick. So I mean, do you not like the individual I can never say that, the IC side of things, or did you just, what about, I guess, the management side appealed to you so much to transition, or was it more the need?
Yeah, it was definitely more the need at first. It was very much team grew so quickly, needed a leader, needed somebody to jump into that role. I really enjoyed seeing teams achieve their goals, and I really did love being an individual contributor and writing code and all that. But I also really I loved going into demos every couple of months and being like, this is what our team just achieved. We knocked out that thing on the roadmap, and we're really moving forward as a group. And I know everybody loves to be here and is passionate about what we're trying to do. I just really enjoyed that. That really resonated with me, and I like talking to people and getting to know people and kind of getting a feel for how they viewed all that. So I loved it from the beginning, but it definitely at first arose out of need. It was one of those, we need somebody to run the show, and you can be a good person for that. How you feel about it? I was like, all right. So
yeah, apparently you stepped up and did great. That's awesome.
Congrats to player 6586 for winning the game. Let's pick a new map here. Let's do this is a broken map. Let's do this one. No, I think that was a good question, Drew. Would you say a team lead could double as a manager? Like, when would it make sense for you to like have a team lead? I mean, we did that, right, Drew? Like, I was a manager for a little bit when we set Henry up as a manager or as a team lead, but I was kind of also a team lead. Thoughts on that?
Yeah. It gets into the really philosophical discussion about like what is management.
Oh, that's what we're here for. That's the philosophy make it for the 100x engineer.
Yeah, like if you're because I mean if you're a team leader, you're a manager in a lot of ways, right? Your job is to manage execution and output of a group, whether or not it's like represented in an HR diagram or not. So that's super. I think in a lot of ways you are managing many things, as we've talked about already in the last several minutes. to your earlier point about team leads having input on hiring and firing and so forth, totally agree. Like that's definitely something that has to be there. But I think in some cases it makes sense to have the team lead be the manager, like you said. I think a couple that come to immediate mind are the team is like pretty sufficient and is like been around for a little bit and you can kind of churn on their roadmap and so forth. I think it makes sense to have somebody run with that and kind of push the team down that direction. That makes a lot of sense to me. There's a couple others as well, but hopefully that answers part of your question. But it's an interesting discussion for sure. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I agree with what you're saying. Sorry, Drew. I'm not trying to bully you. I'm trying to figure out how to wall jump up this.
Me too.
You have to reverse which side you're pressing. It's opposite of chicken horse. You have to press into the wall when you jump. It doesn't automatically.
Oh, what? Okay.
Yeah, I think the evaluating the point at which I was like, okay, I can no longer be a manager and team lead. It reached when I reached like the team size of like 7 or 8. We had a couple of engineers on the team who were more junior at that point, and like they weren't getting the mentorship from me that they really deserved. And so it became time for me to kind of step back and say, you know what, like I think somebody else needs to like take care of the like when I wasn't able to answer the questions and be there for people of like as their team lead is where it was there. And that comes with team size and like noise, I guess. That's different from each company.
Yeah, totally. And I think as you pick up like more cross-cutting projects and so forth, you really need somebody else to kind of be your advocate as well and to work closely with you and connecting to other teams and making sure that alignment makes sense. So yeah, I totally agree with you.
Let's see what other things on here. What do you think are some of the benefits of well actually okay, so like yeah, we touched on like separating like hiring and firing responsibility. Actually, I'm gonna target this question to Drew essentially. Drew, I'm actually curious to hear your thoughts. Like, do you wish you were more involved with the hiring process and I guess firing process, personnel management process? I'm curious what your thoughts are as like a current team lead.
Well, so for everyone's context, I mean, we are pretty heavily, and I say we as in my entire team and I are pretty heavily involved in the interview process for almost any candidate that would end up on our team. And then we have a review process that we're also pretty involved in, but ultimately you make the final decision, Carter. And I actually think I like how it's currently set up. I think I agree with the distinction we're making that falls more in line with the management responsibility. And our current team lead roles are more IC focused. Like we do have management, responsibilities, but the focus is just contribution and mentorship to I guess in addition to that. So no, I don't even know how I would improve it.
I guess like the main thing that you wouldn't be involved with would be like the phone screening process. Is like
which I'm thankful I'm not involved with that because that sounds difficult. So
that's one of my favorite parts of my job. I love it so much.
You like it? Well, you should explain why you like it.
Actually, Andy, I'm curious to your thoughts. Do you like phone screens or do you not like phone screens?
I do. I like getting to know the person before I kind of ask the team to continue going down the process and so forth. I also like getting a general probe on culture fit and so forth. So yeah, I enjoy it as well.
Okay, cool. I was actually curious. I was like, I don't know if this is just a me thing, but like, yeah, I enjoy like, if anything, like phone screens are, good heavens, I have 0 stars again.
It's tedious. I mean, it feels like, you guys do a lot of filtering on that side before we see I guess, not to sound mean, but the cream of the crop of candidates filter down and we actually interview. So,
or you see the candidates that are set up for success. Oh, I have a shell.
That's a better way to frame that for sure. At least it
I don't know what this means, but I'm going to come and shell you guys.
I like doing the phone screens too. I think it gives you really good early feedback on how effective your job description is in your posting and making sure that you're attracting people that have that skill set for the role. Like I like getting that feedback quick before putting a bunch of other people through it. That's another added benefit, I think. I feel like I'm getting killed here by Drew No Stash. I can't get out of this one spot.
Man, there's a HR Nightmare and Player 6586 are just like to the teeth. They're like my cats fighting. No, there goes my turtle shell. This one outlasted. No, the phone screens, if anything, are like some of the source of like my best like stories. I guess I've been able to share with people outside of work. Like, this thing happened. Not all of them are bad, but I especially love it when there's just like a candidate who just like does something that I'm going to tell people about later, obviously anonymously. But maybe I shouldn't share that publicly. But I usually get it. I have to laugh at it because there's some people who are mean out there. But also, I love it when it's like I had a really good conversation with this person. Like they're really excited about the company and like the job, and like it like feels good.
Yeah, totally. And like I always want to be like just as excited as them and moving them through the process. And I think like that early phone screen, like you get a really good feel for that. And like I love going back to my team being like, I know we have all these things to do, but this person could be a game changer. Go talk to them. You know,
HR nightmare. Well done.
Yeah, I will say that is nice having someone like y'all on the forefront of that, because we end up with, like I said, really good candidates. Most of the time we're interviewing somebody, we're probably hiring them because you guys have done that filtering and made that engagement. So it is a cool thing to have. Who is HR Nightmare?
Yeah, HR Nightmare. You don't have to reveal yourself if you want to remain the vigilante in suspenders, but please feel free to if you want to claim all the glory. And player 6586 as well.
I vote we change the map. That map was horrendous because
that map was a cluster.
I could not get out. I was stuck in one spot.
Yeah.
I'm sure you saw that.
You got to get the shell thing. All right, let's go on this new one. This is kind of a weird one. I didn't plan on asking this. Did you notice like a change in like your social skills outside of work or maybe inside of work? Good heavens, this is going to be awesome.
Yeah, when I moved from IC to manager, or just kind of in the general...
I guess like implicitly, like I noticed like after I started like doing more phone screens and like interviewing people. Hey Nick, sorry Nick. I guess you got my star, so we're good. I noticed actually like I was like I talk to strangers a lot every week, and I feel like I've actually gotten better at talking to strangers as a result of that. Have you noticed something similar?
Yeah, I have.
Like a weird flex.
Yeah, no, I have. I think like the small talk of even just like, hey, how's your day going? Or finding something like interesting to talk about just right off the bat. Like when you do more and more phone screens, it's that definitely, I've noticed that as well. I feel like I picked up more of that too.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's validating to hear, to say the least. Enrique, leave me alone. I need to get out of here. All right, let's kind of shift gears and talk about the transition from, what the hell was that? The transition from manager to director. So this was one that like I wasn't quite sure what to expect when I went through this. What was your experience like with that? Like, how did your job change, and what prompted that change?
Yeah, so my big change was I was managing a lot of teams that were focused on like back-end enabling services that powered a lot of the platform, but then I really took over a group that was in charge of all new development for our K-12 products at McGraw-Hill. So that was like an all-encompassing role that had to work very closely with product management. I think the biggest changes that I noticed were twofold. One was you really start working sideways with product management a lot, and making sure that stuff is aligned and that you're on the same page with what you want to do before it even gets into the engineering planning phase. That was one big difference. And then I think really the big change, when you're a manager, I think managing one team, even a couple of teams, it's generally a little clear where you might have a lane, or it feels like there's some lanes to be in. When you're a director, like the lane is the road, and you have like a lot of with great power comes great responsibility, but you definitely have a lot of ways to think about organizing, the organization and your culture.
Yeah, I like what you're saying about I don't know what we just did there, Drew, but head first into oblivion. I like what you're saying about like the whole road is your lane, and like also like working very adjacently to product management.
Yeah.
I think if I had to pick one thing that says it's like to define the change between manager and director, it's like, yeah, there's just broader scope, like a lot more general directing, and a lot less like specifics of like, I hate this kind of to a degree. Like I can no longer like go and talk to one of the engineers on the team and be like, hey, here's like some good feedback for you on like how you can improve. But I can provide general direction to them. Again, like it's a stretch for director, but like that's what the team leads and managers are there for.
Yeah. And I totally. I think a big one too is like problem definition. I think when you move into the director position, you more start questioning, do we need feature A because the existing feature we have is like a bad user experience and we're looking to hide that by building this new thing? Or if it's actually a capability that we really should offer our customers. Those are the real discussions that kind of get fun, but powerful. because you start focusing on the most important things. And then you can go back to your team and say, hey, I know this is the most important things. We've had a lot of great discussions about it with various people.
Right. I'll agree with that. Oh man, you took my shell. Drew, I'm curious if you've noticed this as well, but I feel like I've started saying no to a lot of people outside of the team more since becoming a director than I did as a team leader and manager.
Yeah, like, the power's going in your head for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Everyone except for Phil. I know my place. I want the star. But yeah, I think like you are certainly more expected and empowered to make decisions of yes, we will do this, or no, we will not do this. Right now, with why.
Yeah,
you doing that saves us, like the team. So
yeah, I think a lot of times the most important decision you'll make is saying no in a lot of ways for some projects and some things that come up. Whether it's like to be too quick of a timeline or it's not being thought about the right way. It's really important to make sure you don't always just jump into everything. You have to really think through stuff and sometimes say no.
Yeah, which is hard because like that's a shift, right? Of like as like an IC, more or less, like especially as like a mid-level, maybe like earlier senior engineer, like I feel like a lot of your job is like you take what you're given, like you take the tickets and you just like have kind of trust in the system that like somebody upstairs is like picking good things for you guys to work on. And as you move further and further up the ladder, that gets, or like further and further in your career, like that gets more not true, I guess. Especially the director role, though. Like I've had to like stop and ask myself several times and be like, okay, people are saying this is important. I have enough context here. I've worked here long enough that like I can actually answer this myself, and I can push back. There's been several things that I've like, I'm sorry, like to the product managers, if you're watching this, like for the times I've been an asshole, nicely, but like nicely said of the smile on his, we had a whole automation pipeline around documentation that just was a nightmare. We were using an archaic tool for it. And like essentially told them like, no, we're not going to waste any more of our developers' time figuring this out. Like we'll put somebody else, we'll contract it out to a third party. I don't care. Until then though, if it is so urgent, we can copy paste it into the tool and that will be our automated workflow for now. And like, that was like, it was a controversial, who was in here with me? Oh, hey, Drew.
I was just bullying you while you weren't paying attention. Yeah, and that's funny because that's a good example of what we're talking about, because me as even a team lead working on that functionality, I didn't have the power to make that say, but you did. And it was helpful for the team to do that. So.
And you don't have to deal with the fallout. Not that there's any drama from it, but it's certainly a more controversial thing.
Difficult decision. Yeah, there are trade-offs to it, and it was difficult. But
there were people that were not happy about it. But at the end of the day, also like I think everyone was like, yes, Drew is far too valuable of an engineer to waste on mere automation pipeline for documentation. No offense to anybody who works on pipeline stuff. You guys are great. Just Drew's not good at that. Drew's good at other things.
Drew is not good at that. Carter said I'm bad at it.
Yeah, publicly. On the record. At what point did you shift from being a manager to a director, Andy? Like, what prompted that transition?
I think the big thing was that I'd managed many different teams. So by the time I'd made that transition into manager, I started off managing 3 teams that were focused on integration space or third-party integrations, integrating our content to different third parties. And then I added a couple of teams around rostering. And then I really added a few more teams around like the K-12 full stack user experience per se. So what prompted it, I think, was like more knowledge of kind of like everything going on, but also my like experience and the time that I'd spent really managing people and also managing managers at that point. I'd managed team leads for a significant period of time, which I think is a big component of that. Once you get that director role, you have to be very comfortable, managing tech leads, team leads, and managers, obviously. That was what probably prompted that for me.
Cool. Yeah. Trying to think of what prompted it for mine. It was a conglomerate of things, but it was like once the team size reached like 18 people, it was like manager doesn't feel quite right because I was like I'm managing team leads essentially right now. Like I'm not on the court playing ball with everybody, is a frequent analogy I like to use as somebody who doesn't play basketball.
Yeah.
And sorry, Nick. Oh, never mind. You got it back. But yeah, it was when I was like, okay, yeah, I'm no longer like involved with like the smaller decisions and like I'm not writing code at all anymore. Yeah. At what point did you stop writing code? Actually, were you still doing that as a manager? Do you still do it now as a director?
I'm still doing it as a manager. I actively tried to do it. I made time for it. I even worked extra to make sure that I stayed close to that, just because I really wanted to make sure I didn't lose those skills. And then over time, it just got unsustainable. I feel like in the last probably when I was a director in my previous role, I wasn't writing any code. So when I moved into that role, I really moved away from it pretty permanently.
Do you miss it? Do you still keep it up on the side?
I do miss it greatly. Yeah, I really do. I always, especially because when I was an individual contributor at McGraw-Hill and an engineer on a team, we were doing a transition from a massive PHP monolith that was very procedural PHP, wasn't even using Laravel or anything like that. We transitioned entirely to Go microservices. So I kind of got us started on some of that with leading our team and so forth. And then I just became a manager of that group pretty quickly. So we were working with some really exciting tech, like we are as well here at JupiterOne. So I do miss it. I do, definitely.
Yeah.
But do you write anymore these days here?
So we have a project in Jira called SProj, Special Projects, and it's essentially Erkong, our CEO's red line to me, be like, hey, here's an idea I had. You go and implement this. It's things that essentially, like, you don't necessarily need, like, we have a process for it, so it's not just a cowboy free for all. But essentially things like I have enough context that, like, I can take a whack at it without having product and design weigh in beforehand, but more just like consult with them after I kind of get a proof of concept up. I've liked it. It's been a good kind of middle ground for me. That said, like, the month when I actually get time to work on those varies from month to month. Some months I'll knock out 2 or 3 of them, and other months it's like, yeah, there's nothing. It's a good thing to do when it's like, I have nothing to direct right now because I don't know, people are busy.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll ever step away fully from IC, Carter?
Like professionally or personally or both?
I guess professionally, because I actually think I know the answer personally, but both.
I don't know. Actually, I guess this kind of brings us into our title topic, our namesake of the episode of, like, how do I Ted Lasso an engineering team? Ted Lasso is a manager for a football team who steps into a European soccer team and tries to teach them how to play soccer. And, people don't respect him and bully him. And then he ends up, like, winning their trust and helping them get sick. I won't tell you. I'll let you go and watch it. But I only feel comfortable writing code as a manager because I've been able to, like, write most of the code that I'm contributing to, like, or been able to, like, I'm familiar with our stack and everything. If I stepped into, like, a new company, I don't think I would have that same confidence, and I would feel weird, like, asking somebody to come and, like, hey, show me the ropes. Can you, like, vet this PR? Where it's like, I work with, and, like, I don't know. So to answer your question, Drew, I'd feel uncomfortable doing that, but I don't know if that would stop me from, like, going somewhere else, like, as, like, an IC or as a manager. Andy, what's kind of your experience been on that? How have you Ted Lasso'd your engineering team?
Well, I was just going to agree with your point that, like, one of the hardest things that I had to do early was I contributed a lot of code to that earlier team that I mentioned, where I was the tech lead, and then I stepped away from that. I was managing teams where I had to, like, ask on day 2 or day 3, like, where do the repos even live? Like, where are the services and where's the API documentation? And you have to draw the right balance between asking smart questions, but also, acknowledging that there's a lot to learn, but you also don't want to come off as a non-technical manager, right? It's always a worry. Like, you have to make sure you have to make sure you get into things quickly. And if you don't, things might erode, right? So it's been tough to, like, stay up to speed with what everything is going on. But over time, I just try to find people that I can trust, that, I've worked in that repo for a while, get their ideas on what can be better, to, like, kind of promote, like, some buy-ins, like, hey, let's talk about how we can, like, innovate here and make this thing better. But it's tough. It's one of the toughest things, I think, when you bounce between management jobs or between teams. And one of the things I'd be curious to hear your experience, Carter, as you moved into the director role and he's kind of stopped looking at code every day or started looking at it less, like, how did you get comfortable with knowing that your teams were committing quality code and so forth? That was one big thing that I noticed when I made my change, was that I felt like when I was a team lead, even a manager, you can lead by example and have like code and pull requests and be like, hey, this is kind of how we should be doing things. When you get into that director, you're much more leading by like setting expectations, where it's like, I'm not writing those pull requests anymore and telling people you must do this. But what was your experience like?
It's not often that people ask me questions back in the show. I appreciate it because I like talking. It was very natural for me. I don't feel like I feel like if I was to go somewhere else, I would definitely have some imposter syndrome of like, I don't know if like I tricked them into hiring me. I did it. And like, I feel like I'd almost need to like prove my technical moxie to like some engineers, unless like, especially if they weren't ones that like I hired. I've never done that before because like the team started out and it was like me, Austin, and Charlie, and a few other people, I guess. But like the Saturn team that I managed, I started with me and then just hired Henry and then hired Drew and Sam and a bunch of people. So yeah, it's been very different, I would say. Like I feel like, and like with all the team leads especially, I was able to, I don't want to be so pretentious because like I was their technical mentor, but like we did have like technical, like I did like review your code, right, Drew? And like we would chat and like talk technically, and like you guys hopefully know that I can like write some code, have some sort of technical chops with a lowercase c. Drew, as your perspective, like, do you feel like that helps you work with me as a manager? Maybe that's a weird one to ask. If you had a non-technical manager or somebody who like you hadn't worked with, would that change your way that you interact with them? Or do you feel like
Are you asking me or Andy?
Asking you as like a member of the team, like if you had a non-technical manager or director who like you didn't have kind of like a technical trust with, assuming we have technical trust.
Yeah, I think it just changes the interaction. And I think obviously, maybe not obviously, but it's better that we have that background and we have that technical exchange. And yes, I will second that you were very much a technical mentor for me and others. And I think that does add value. I don't know how subjective that's coming off, but it's not to say that I wouldn't be able to have similar exchanges with someone who I didn't have that with, obviously.
Right.
So but I do think it helps. I don't know to what degree.
Yeah, that's interesting. Oh no, I just got hit by a bomb. So we're coming up on time here. We got time for maybe like 2 more questions. Andy, how big was the team you directed at McGraw-Hill?
I was responsible for like probably 7 to 8 agile teams at any given time with like 6 to 7 people. So like concurrently all at once, it was between like, anywhere between like 45 to 60. But I did have experience moving around so much that I did manage probably up to 80 people by one point in terms of just knowing what their work was about. So that's kind of why, to get back, we talked about this earlier, I think, with why I was there for a while.
Yeah.
I got a new challenge like every 12 to 18 months. I felt like I was getting a new job every 12 to 18 months. The teams I was managing, which was like, it was exciting. And I was really appreciative that I got those opportunities, and that's what kept me there. So yeah, but it was tough to have that big of a group, but you can make such a big impact when you have that many people, obviously. So that was obviously an exciting challenge.
Do you feel like that diluted your impact at all, having that many people?
Definitely. Yeah, I think there's only you get to a stage where you have to kind of pick how you can like try to lead and direct multiple people potentially through only working with a couple people more directly, right? Like working with a team lead, like working with a really strong team lead or a tech lead and be like, hey, I need these 3 things done from the team this week and I'm not going to be able to check in with everybody. That just had to happen. So even though stuff was getting done, sometimes I felt bad because I was really I couldn't get a chance to talk to as many people as I would have liked to. Because for me, I like building the relationships with people and getting a feel for what motivates them and why they're excited about the work they're doing. Hey, what can we do better? What are your suggestions for this product that we're working on? But sometimes when you have that many people, you gotta pick the right things to focus your time on.
Yeah, that resonates with me. I was gonna say, I only managed like 20. So the team right now is about 21, 22 people, and even with that, so in my annual report, somebody, I won't say who, but they put in my feedback to my boss, like, Carter is a master delegator. That's an implicit way of saying Carter doesn't do anything. But I think that's a strength as a director, of like figuring out who the work needs to go to and like who's actually going to be able to get it done. And like, I won't lie to you and say that like, yeah, I can do it, and then like accidentally let it slip through the cracks. I think that's an important skill to have when you're managing large groups of people. Like, do the stuff you can do and delegate to the correct person the stuff you cannot. Like, you know who's overburdened, you know who's like burnt out, and you also know who can do something well. So.
Yeah, and delegation is so key, because if you don't delegate things, then you can't move up, which means the people on your team can't move up. And that's one of the more, that's, you know, being a good manager and a good director, you have to find that right balance. I think I always try to tell people, though, you know, when it comes to delegation, like, delegate but be available. I think that's kind of the better way of saying it.
I like that. That's a good way to balance it.
It's like, definitely, it's good. Like, you don't want to get lost in the fact delegation is good. Like, it definitely gives people opportunities to grow. It helps more things get done by like a larger group of people. But
delegation's great. Don't be dissing my jam, dude. That's what I do.
Yeah. Delegation is not like on Monday, hey, do this thing at the sprint demo 2 weeks from now.
Right.
It's not there, and it's like, oh, you know what happened? you have to be available.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I like that. Okay, we have time for one more question. This is a question that we can either say, Andy, say something profound, or if I'm a team lead looking to get into management, what things can I do to prepare?
That is a great question. I would say, in order to make that jump, you have to really, the team's goals are a lot of times going to be greater than your own, and you have to be very, very comfortable with that and be ready to like push groups of people towards that. I think you also have to be really, really gung-ho about wanting to be a manager. I think it has to be about, you want people to grow and you want to take like an active interest in that, rather than just moving up in the organization. That's definitely the wrong motivation for wanting to be a manager. So I think if you find yourself like wanting to coach people, wanting to kind of take the next step of high level, directing them towards pieces of work and so forth, then that's a really great thing to get involved with.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah.
Before I kick you off the show, not kick you off, before we outro you politely, how'd you rate the jankiness of this game that we just played? Drew, open forum to you as well. I think this is the appropriate time in the show to start doing that, right?
Yeah.
We have to end on a doubly profound note of jankiness rating.
And so we're going out of 10 is kind of what we started with.
Yeah, or it could be a non-linear ranking system. I would rate this like somewhat janky for this reason.
Somewhat janky. Yeah, I actually like that. Yeah, I think.
Also, viewers, please leave a comment in YouTube. It helps Carter get a raise if you contribute. Actually, it doesn't. I just like seeing people contribute to the comments.
Game's pretty solid. I think I'm more upset with the fact that I could not collect a star and hold on to it for more than 2 seconds because of HR violation and
this map is kind of a mess.
That's how I feel. Yeah, that's how I feel. I'd say it wasn't as much janky as it was just hard. I had a tough time.
Man, we had a good turnout today. There was a lot of people playing. That was fun. I just discovered here. I'll share this. If this isn't janky, get refocused. No, okay. You can do push-up jumping. Where let's see here. This is definitely worth keeping everyone here for. Yeah, you can jump across the entire map like this. To me, that sounds janky to me. Like, I'm accelerating and I'm not walking at all. So somewhat janky, but also surprisingly well made for a itch.io illegally copyrighted game. So
yeah,
take it. Andy, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a blast. You did great at Mario, and conveniently, you also had really good things to share with us. So appreciate it. We'll get you on the next time. Talk to you.
Yeah, I don't know if I did great at Mario, but I hope I did have good things to share. Thanks for having me.
See ya.
See you, Andy.
Tyler's on it. I almost clicked to turn him off, and then Tyler, I would have brought him straight back, and that would have been awkward. And we are never awkward on this show. Okay, to my boss, Phil, if you're watching this, Chum W here. I definitely don't know Chum is lobbying that I get a raise. And Drew, We're in this together. If I get a raise, you get a raise too.
I don't know. I don't see a comment in there saying I should get one. So that's.
I don't know what the pinky thing was. I think I was like pinky promising you. There we go.
That should be our outro now.
The pinky promise across the. You'd have to like bring your other pinky in to make it look like.
Oh yeah. I can't do that. I'm not going to be able to do that.
This is.
Oh wait, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. Oh man, we
should wait.
Nailed it. Okay. Carter has carpal tunnel syndrome from that. But next episode, 2 weeks from today,
August 23rd.
August 23rd. Thank you. I got signed out of Google, so I don't have to Google that up. Drew gets a raise. Drew does not get a raise. It's like
fun fact: my little sister used to call me Dew growing up. So
that's cute. That's fun. I like that.
Drew gets a raise.
Drew gets a raise too. There we go. Coming from Chum. August 23rd, we'll be chatting with a data scientist, data engineer next time, a friend of mine, William Coy, or Billy. He's a power lifter, so we'll be able to chat about that because I love talking about things I don't know about. So if you're interested in data science or data engineering, or even just like, why do data engineers use Python instead of JavaScript or C#? Can I just do that with a Nugget library or an NPM library? This might be for you. Are they using a Notepad++ like the rest of us? I don't know. I might upgrade to Sublime Text one day. We'll see. I definitely didn't pre-make that joke, and I'm definitely going to reuse it for the people that aren't watching this right now next week. So, anyways, Drew, anything else before we drop?
Oh, I think that's it.
Yeah, this has been fun. All right, well, with that, let's do our outro now.